Well, it's Solidarity Wednesdays, which means Benjamin Dixon from The Benjamin Dixon Show, the host and the executive producer and the president.
It's always good to be here with me on Solidarity Wednesdays.
Thanks for being here. So I was on your show this morning and it was brilliant. And I mean, it is what I love about your show. It sets the intention for the day. It makes, I think what's really powerful about it. I mean, I work out and I do yoga and meditate in the morning because I want to set my intention for the day. And the days when I don't, I sometimes get swept away in the news cycle and start to feel anxiety all day. And what I realized about your show in the morning is that it's political, but you have this way of really keeping the eye on the prize, not making you feel hopeless and frustrated, but okay, we have ways and paths to move forward, and this is how we're going to do it. And that's what I find so beautiful about what you're doing, because it does. It's almost like, your daily political meditation. So,
I just want to say thank you for seeing. It took. David knows it's taken a whole year to really get to, because it's hard to talk about these political issues and not let them bring you down every day, because they are depressing. It is real life for so many people to deal with the issues that we fight with. And so as we found ourselves talking about it every single day for the last, I don't know how many years, I realized we had to take a different approach, because it's not healthy. Nobody wants to get up and just be furious in the morning. Like you said, you have to set your intention for the day. And we set our intention on being as informative as you can, but also making it worthwhile getting up and having some fun.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's fun too. But part of this is we live in the news cycle, and the algorithms feed off just news in general feeds off this. If it bleeds, it reads, right?
Yeah.
You gotta throw a little Kardashian in with your meteor stuff. But we just had a conversation with David Dayan, who I know you know.
Yeah.
And David, what I was left from that conversation was that there are paths for us right now in government to make change that are not the obvious paths. Yes, cinema and Mansion, which we will talk about, are frustrating, and they're holding things up. The parliamentarian is frustrating, but there are other paths. Whether it's the administration and Chuck Schumer pressuring them from different angles that they might respond to, that may not just be primarying them, but maybe investigations, taking them off of committees, et cetera, et cetera. Ethics investigations. There's all different ways. Or what David was saying is there's a lot of things that the administration and different bureaus and in the administration can do with literally no effort, either just by saying, we're going to look into this, like the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, as he mentioned, can look into credit card fees for overdrafting your credit card. Just them saying that and naming which banks, the banks change their policies.
That's right.
So for in an election year, right, where it's not looking great as of now, but if the administration were to cancel student debt or talk about the pathway to canceling student debt, do you think that would be enough for them to win or to get the movement behind them?
Well, I'm afraid to give them that idea, because what they've been masters of, the Democratic Party, has been saying all the right things until they actually get power and then doing nothing with it. But yeah, if you're going to cancel student debts, you're going to win in 2022. There's just really no question. It's not an issue for every single American, but it is an issue for enough Americans that I think we're approaching $2.5 trillion of student loan debt. It affects every demographic. It may not affect the entire Black community, but it affects a huge part of the Black community. It affects Black women, it affects Black men, it affects every single one of us. So yes, he can win if he cancels student debt. Here's what he's not going to tell you. No one is going to tell you. The grim reality is that there are people who make contributions to Democrats as well, who make their profits off of student debt.
Right. And
or at least the entire institution, the structure of it. There's money being made off of this.
Mm-hmm. And this is federal debt. It's not like the private debt's not going to be eliminated. It's the federal debt that would be eliminated. On that note, I want to talk a little bit about, we were going to talk about this morning, Matt Gaetz and Roger Stone. I know this sounds, yes, it's really fun to talk about these head cases, but they're also extremely dangerous. And that's why I wanted to talk about it with you, because we talked about propaganda at the beginning and how propaganda, the big lie, whether it's about the vaccines, whether it's about anything that Donald Trump ever said, the elections, these merchants now of lies have hijacked our democracy
Yeah.
in a sense that Roger Stone used to be sort of like this kooky outsider. Yes, he worked for Nixon. Yes, but in New York politics, he was the one who ran, the former, I think she was a stripper, if I'm correct, on a marijuana line. Like that was his path in politics in New York. Was like a little kooky, got involved in some threesomes, like strange stories. No, seriously, you can look it up. But this is a person, even though he supposedly is on the outs of the Trump world, he doesn't go away. People want his tactics. He's known for dirty tactics that work. And I'm betting you that the Koch brothers know some of these tactics. I bet you his other clients know. And of course, Matt Gaetz. So can we put that one thing up about Matt Gaetz? Is that possible?
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
I don't have it. And I apologize. I don't have the rundown, David. So it's like, all right, I can't see it. All right, can you zoom in a little bit? So Roger Stone, who's like the scum of the earth, right? Even he says he drafted Matt Gaetz, is turning away from Matt Gaetz, who's under multiple investigations for all sorts of dodgy things. I find this fascinating because, Florida is so important, and DeSantis is probably, trying to build his coalition. Is there something? I mean, let's think three-dimensionally here for a second. Roger Stone doesn't go after people unless there's some sort of big reason. What do you think is happening here?
I do. I kind of get the feeling that there's a legitimate multi-front civil war happening in the Republican Party. And I think Roger Stone is, he's coming out to do the bidding of whoever. I don't think he has any real belief system. I think he does. He believes in who's ever going to write him the biggest check. That said, I do believe that there is a civil war happening in the Republican Party. One thing I have to give them, though, they are very careful about what is seen on the outside as opposed to how vicious they are internally. So there is the Matt Gaetz contingency. There is the Ron DeSantis contingency. And I noticed that Roger Stone attacked both of them. And in particular with Ron DeSantis, he attacked them specifically as it pertains to Donald Trump. So my inclination is to think that there's a divide between the Matt Gaetz of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world, because I'm thinking Roger Stone is showing loyalty still to Donald Trump. But it's getting wild over there, to say the least.
It's getting wild over there. I mean, Roger Stone claims credit for recruiting Trump, which, in the 80s, they were trying to get him to run for president. And Roger Stone worked for Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was Donald Trump's father's lawyer. Roy Cohn, of course, was one of the dirtbags of McCarthyist era dirtbags. I'll just say it straight up. One of the lawyers when the blacklist was happening. So this is, we think those tactics went away, but we're just like one generation behind, and they're still around. They're old enough.
That's right.
On that note, though, it's like the same tactics, but they're taking different shapes. You talked about this on your show this morning, that propaganda is propaganda. It's always existed. But, with the algorithm now, propaganda can spread and target and really prey on people in a much faster way. Aaron Rodgers is just another advocate against vaccines. And, I think folks are trying to see, like, obviously how dangerous being anti-vax is. But politically, is this like a new wedge issue? Where do you feel this is going to go? I mean,
the vaccine conversation and why so many people, I think in time we're going to see that it was nothing more than profits. Ivermectin was selling out. When hydroxychloroquine, the name was dropped, it was selling out. And even outside of those, those different, I don't know, snake oil salesman version of a remedy, outside of that, you still have people who are sandbagging our ability to just live. I mean, they're really leading their people to the slaughter. And the only thing that makes sense is that they're doing it because they simply need to buy as much time as they can.
That's interesting.
So that the quarterly profit margins continue. This is, I think, late stage capitalism at its greatest example is the number of bodies they're willing to throw on COVID-19 to keep the money coming in.
But things can be true. I feel like it's a hook to bring in new demographics into their they're,
Mm.
let's be real, like their movement is actually dying, like because they're getting older, but also because they're dying because of COVID. But someone like an Aaron Rodgers, who's
Yeah, that's the
a
weird part.
football star, I look at him and I'm like, I didn't even know who he was because I don't watch sports, but bringing in different factions, and whether it's Aaron Rodgers or some yoga like
Yeah,
influencer who's anti-vax, or I'm sure there's many others people could mention, musician. This is how it's like it's like a campaign through influencing, and the Republican Party, of course, doesn't need large margins to win because they've taken over the entire country, and
that's right.
one election commissioner here, one challenged election there,
Yeah,
and a bunch of gerrymandering in state legislatures. Someone like an
they
Aaron
got it.
Rodgers.
That's right. That's right. And I'm listening at it at the influence part of Aaron Rodgers, because I think Aaron Rodgers, for his part, is just a useful idiot.
Mhm.
I don't know if he knows or cares to know, but he just feels like he has a cause now. His life has purpose outside of football now. Great job, you know, but you're a useful idiot. And the problem is that the Republican Party is and the conservative movement in general, they're reactionaries more specifically, are masters of co-opting, leveraging, promoting, and getting all the mileage they can out of anyone at the exact moment that it most benefits them. Aaron Rodgers is a godsend for the people who are still raking in money, not
Mm.
only from these snake oil remedies, but also from some treatments. We have politicians with investments in treatment companies. So it's all this one big kabuki theater, and Aaron Rodgers is just playing his dumb role.
Used to get a contract for that, and you could make a few $1,000,000 off of being a spokesperson. How much of a useful idiot is he that he's not even getting paid for this propaganda?
I mean, if you're really through with football, then you could have gone and gotten a check, but you're too dumb to do that, Aaron.
Too many
Damn.
knocks against the head.
Jimmy Dore probably made more money off this grift than Aaron Rodgers did. That's dumb.
Yeah, and on top of it, it probably, if it hasn't already, cost him other deals he could make.
That's
Why?
right.
Because he needs to challenge. What did he say? He says it's not science if you can't question it. Okay, dude. I'm gonna listen to a quarterback about science. Thank you so much. That's just show me your grades and
More slander against quarterbacks. I love it. more slander against quarterbacks. They're all dumb though. I'm joking.
I don't
Not
know
all.
anything about sports. I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, so I can't say things like this because my entire town will
Oh,
turn against me for not knowing enough about
yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
And I also
That's
don't
a
eat
tough
meat,
town
so
to not
like,
know sports in.
don't eat
Yeah.
beef on whack, don't eat chicken wings, not into hockey or football. Like, what? Come on, guys. But we are known for politics, so I took that sport. We
Okay,
had Tim
there you go.
Russert. We, a whole lot of with
Oh.
Kathy Hochul, of course.
Yeah, I didn't know Tim Russell was from Buffalo. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Lots of folks. Wolf Blitzer.
Really?
Harvey Weinstein went to school in Buffalo.
Oh, you're not doing too well. It's going the wrong direction here.
I'm just thinking about this body, and there's a lot.
We went around the wrong corner in Buffalo right then. Just
Listen, not everybody can be from Atlanta, where it's literally the cool. I mean, Buffalo is cool right now. I will say that.
Yeah.
It's making a comeback, but Starbucks workers. Let's pivot a little bit.
You know
Starbucks
what?
workers, India Walton.
That's it. That's exact. I was just getting ready to say shout out to all the cities that were abandoned by management, by capital. I think there's a comeback coming.
I think so too. I think so. So what do you see? What do you see is going to happen in terms of comeback in the next?
Well, I mean, honestly, just be honest. Like the towns that are depressed, the Rust Belt, the cities that were abandoned, the properties are getting extremely cheap now. I think people need to get out of some of these cities and go to some of these cities that were abandoned, and you can find a way to live. It's like the Great Migration in reverse, right? A lot of the cities have not been good to any of us, especially Black people. So when I see cities that are across the South, there are cities that are completely empty. All right. Across the Rust Belt, there's cities that are completely empty buildings. And I just think a lot more people who are working remotely are going to say, I got to get the hell out of this city that's going to charge me $2,500. I paid $2,500 a month in Boston to live in a hovel. Okay. I'm so happy to be back in a town where in the South where it's just the price is affordable. So I think a lot of that's going to happen. And I think COVID has something to do with it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw a little bit after the first recession in 2009. we saw a little bit of it. I saw some reinvestment in Buffalo. Every time I go back and visit my parents, be like, what is happening on the waterfront here? Like, we've been talking about this stuff for 30 years. When I grew up, I think there was a solid like 4 or 5 miles on the way to school of abandoned factories. I mean, it was just normal in my mind. But now when I think about it, I'm like, it was horrible. It was like,
Not normal.
it
Yes,
was like a
exactly.
war-torn town. And it was the norm for me. And so it is, you're seeing some of that. I know like in some of the towns, I just read this in the Buffalo News. Just throwing a lot of love to Buffalo right now. That there's a real estate boom because smaller, younger families can afford to live in Buffalo, so
That's
they're
right.
moving back home.
That's right.
They can
And
work
their
remote, as
jobs
you
are
said.
not predicated on being in Buffalo. Their
That's
jobs
right.
are literally coming from anywhere now.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. Well, you heard it first. And Dixon,
Okay.
Nostradamus. The Dust Belt's coming back. It's also, my mother told me, my mother was a commissioner of environment in Erie County. She said to me, it's also one of the safest places when it comes to climate change on the planet. But don't tell Elon Musk, because all those billionaires are going to go in there and like,
How so? Help me understand
something about the
that
Great
because
Lakes and the freshwater source, and
oh yeah.
there's
No, well
like not
that's
really a
it. Yeah.
fault line. She did
Yeah.
this whole thing.
Let's not repeat that on air too many times. No,
Yeah,
really. Mental
exactly.
mental note.
When I moved to my apartment here, and I live in Astoria, but I just moved apartments, and I'm close to the river, East River, and like the first 3 people I told where I live, they're like, "Oh no, that's not a good place for climate change." I'm like, "Wow, we really
Mm,
have to make our decisions based on this now,"
wow. We
and they're
do.
right. It's
We
not
do.
a good place for climate change.
Mm,
Anyways, Ben, always a pleasure. Love having
it
you
is
on
always a pleasure.
Solidarity Wednesdays. You can
Absolutely.
check out Solidarity Wednesdays on Ben's show, on YouTube, all the other places. We have it all linked in the description, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely, Nomiki. It's always a pleasure.